Good evening, and welcome along to the show. It's another fun-packed show this evening. We'll be chatting to Albert Mills from a legendary rock band Elliott. They're back with some new music, and we'll find out about some gigs they have coming soon as well. We'll be finding out about the Belfast Whiskey Festival, which is taking place very soon. And as well as that, we're going to find out about the top 40 experiences throughout the UK that you have to experience, apparently, before the age of 40. Journalist and travel writer Lisa Nand is going to be with us to tell us about that, and we'll find out which Northern Ireland locations have made the list as well. But starting things off, it is festival time again, and we're going to find out about a brand new harp festival that's coming to Belfast this weekend. Okay, but starting us off on the show this evening, harpers and historians will join forces this week to celebrate the 230th anniversary of the first Harpers Assembly with 5 days of music and heritage and a whole series of events. To tell us more about this fabulous festival, John Gray is with us in the studio. John, welcome. How are you, sir?
I'm very well. I'm sort of almost dancing to the harp music already, if one does.
Well, the good news is we have a harper waiting in the wings to come on straight after you.
And so he's quite a talent, and he'll be playing during the festival.
Wow, so tell us about the festival then. How did all this come about?
Well, it was a Reclaim the Enlightenment, of which I'm chair, has always been interested in Belfast's progressive era, Enlightenment era at the end of the 18th century. And I mean, one of the features in that period was that perhaps last great assembly of the blind harpers of Ireland in the assembly rooms here in Belfast in 1792. And of course this year is the 230th anniversary. And really in early autumn we made connection with Harp Ireland, which is the All-Ireland body which has been playing a great role in encouraging the playing of harp music and its revival and, you know, its movement on from a rich past heritage. And we hit it off and we agreed there should be a festival. And so from the outset it's been a north-south partnership which has worked very well, but it's also become a great partnership in the north. I mean, we have a whole list of other partners in Belfast in particular who are happy to come on board. And better still, it's all been made possible by very generous funding. Arts Council's on board, Belfast City Council, Heritage Lottery Fund, the Irish government. So we had the means to do something big. And when I say something big, there will be something like 50 harpers in Belfast on the weekend of the 14th to the 16th of July. Now that's more harpers than have ever been assembled in Belfast. And, you know, on the one hand, we're paying tribute to the heritage of the harp. On the other hand, we're saying this is the harp restrung, and restrung for all communities. I mean, if you go back to that original Harp Festival or Harp Assembly in 1792, it was organized by the Presbyterian merchants of Belfast, and interestingly, those Presbyterian merchants included the radicals, for example, Thomas Russell, the librarian at what later became the Linen Hall Library, who got himself executed in 1803, Mary Ann McCracken. Yes, the radicals were involved, but the more conservative Presbyterians were also involved. So it crossed all the burgeoning political divisions in the town at that time. Everybody was backing it.
Wow.
And one of the most important things about it might have just been, you know, a fleeting moment in history, a footnote in history, except that they arranged for the then very young Edward Bunting, who I think at the time was organist in St. George's Church, a very talented young man who lived with the McCracken family, incidentally,
right,
to transcribe the music.
Wow.
And the Belfast Library and Society for Promoting Knowledge, today's Linen Hall Library, then actually sponsored the publication of the music in score form in 1796. It appeared as the Ancient Music of Ireland. That's the first publication in score form of the music in the harp tradition. Bunting's there were two further editions right up to 1840, but Bunting's archive also survives in Queen's University with hundreds of other tunes. So, you know, the event in 1792 and Bunting's subsequent work left a very rich heritage of authentic traditional tunes for harpers. And I mean, that certainly is the core corpus of what they do. But, you know, new tunes emerge, new variations arrive, and happily we are no longer dependent on blind harpers, because most of the harpers were blind. It was an occupation. I mean, blindness was an appalling problem. Common affliction. Well, what do you do with a blind child? What can a blind child do? Become a musician, become a harper. And today, fortunately, also, today's harpers not only are generally not blind, but they're not as old as the harpers in 1792. I mean, you take Dennis Hampson, who celebrated harper, actually, who hailed from McGilligan on the north coast. Well, he was born in 1695. He played in the traditional manner with his fingernails, very long fingernails. Well, he was 97 when he played at the 1792 assembly. Well, I'm very happy to say we've a whole swathe of young harpers now. So they, you know, the thing is taking off.
Yeah, so we're going to see one of those young harpers very shortly performing in the studio for us. But what's happening over the weekend then? What kind of events have you got planned?
Well, we're launching the Belfast end of the festival in the Linen Hall Library, 6 o'clock on the Friday evening. We then go straight on to a recital in the Deer's Head. Then the following day, well, perhaps focus on major concerts. We have two major concerts, one on the Saturday night in the First Presbyterian Church, and the second one on the Sunday night in St. Joseph's in Sailortown. Then in between we have recitals taking place in Cultureland, St. Joseph's, First Presbyterian. We have a lecture in First Presbyterian. We have workshops all over the city, Clifton House, the Duncairn Centre, Shankle Road Library, did I mention Cultureland? Churas in the east of the city, which are sort of opportunities for people to be introduced to the harp and see different aspects of how people play the harp. And, you know, in all cases, people who go to those workshops will be meeting very talented and basically young practitioners who have found their forte and have a huge enthusiasm for what they're doing. I should say that, you know, the big concerts, okay, you have to pay in. Recitals, a modest charge, but the workshops are all free. So it's not going to cost you anything to dip your toe in. And you can book via event. In both cases, even for free events, you should book via Eventbrite.
Brilliant. So is there a website people can check out to get the full programme of events then?
harpsalive.com.
Brilliant. Well, we look forward to that. It's going to be a fabulous weekend. We've got Adam waiting in the wings to come on to play some fabulous music for us. But in the meantime, John, thank you for coming in and joining us on the show.
Well, thanks for entertaining me.
So let's sit back, relax, and chill out now and enjoy this fabulous sound of the harp. Now, there isn't too many people who can say they've worked with legends like Thin Lizzy, Rory Gallagher and even Fleetwood Mac, but my next guest has. You might remember back in the 70s going to see Light at the Pound in Belfast. We'll find out more about that because Albert Mills joins us in the studio. Albert, I can't believe it's taken me 20 years to get you in that seat there.
Hi, Robin. It was a question of, I seen one of your posts up with young Zach yeah. Mac, and great youngster coming up through the blues thing and that. And the timing was that with a new EP out, and I just contacted you, and it's a pleasure to be here at last.
Well, it's great to have you here at last. I'm glad you mentioned Zach Mac there as well, because I was saying when he was on the show a couple of weeks back, he's like a young Phil Lynott, isn't he?
He is indeed. He's like a young Phil Lynott and a great player. And like I was saying, you know, any kids that got that's coming up playing guitar, playing music, I always put up my post, the future is bright.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Light did support Thin Lizzy back
Absolutely.
In the day. What were those days like?
Absolutely brilliant. Well, we went way back with Phil and Gary, because I also played with the National Stadium in Dublin with my original band, Creative Mind, with Fleetwood Mac, and it was on one of those nights that he met Peter Green, Gary Moore.
Yeah.
And so we knew Gary. I knew Gary when I was 14, and sorry, I was 16. He was 14. He was always 2 years younger than me. God bless him. And so we knew Phil as well, and we knew all the guys. And in that era, we knocked about Smithfield and all the guitar shops, Marcus Music, round the Crimbles on a Saturday, playing the guitars, doing all of that there. But when Light recorded their album, what happened was Jim Aiken, God bless him as well, all these people are gone now, great promoter who brought Thin Lizzy to the Ulster Hall, and it was the Live and Dangerous tour at the height of Lizzy, yeah. And we were asked to support them for 2 nights, and we did support them, and it was one of the highlights of my career, supporting Lynott and Phil and everybody else, and it just went like clockwork. It was great because he knew us, you know. Yeah. I remember walking into and they were practicing doing a sound check and doing waiting for an alibi, and he stopped it. And he turned around and we were standing, we had opened the doors at the back to walk in to do a sound check. And he says, it's Jim and the boys, pack up, let's go for a drink. That's what he was like, you know, let's go for a drink. And then it was just play the gigs and then a wee bit of partying after it and discussing things, you know.
Now, what about Fleetwood Mac as well? Because this was the original, the Peter Green days.
Peter Green.
Peter Green, I would imagine, was it a little difficult to work with?
No, he was the loveliest man. In those days, he had the band were at the height of theirs, but I think it was about 68, 69, and I was 19 again, and Jim Aiken again brought them over. He brought all the major tours over, and you played Cork City Hall, and then you played the National Stadium in Dublin, and then you did the Ulster Hall, and we did 3 tours with them. One with the original Fleetwood Mac lineup, and then Danny Kerwin joined them on the last tour, but fabulous guys.
Now we have a photograph appearing on the screen right now of a massive gig that happened in Belfast. This was when you were with Creative Minds as well.
Yep.
This is the Pop for Peace concert at Minnoburn, isn't it?
Yeah, and I know you were involved in that as well, Robin. And it was after the event that I looked at it. I think it was it the 50th anniversary of it?
It must have been, yeah.
Yeah, and you were interviewing up at the actual site.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was young people. I think it was about 15,000 at it. I might be wrong, but at that time, Creative Mind were one of the headlining bands in Belfast and that. And just looking out, we'd never played something like that before. Very wet day, but and the kids all enjoying it. And we thought there was at that time, at the start of the Troubles, there was a future then, and the kids were coming out to show that. Because, you know, music has always bridged the gap in Northern Ireland. Doesn't matter where you come from, people came and heard their bands, whether it was Minnoburn, whether it was in those days we were playing Betty Staff's, we're playing the Maritime, we're playing all the usual haunts, and Romano's and stuff like that there, the Radio 1 Club. And then you went to the Pound in the 70s. You had Spike, and you had Bronco, and you had Light.
Yeah.
And we played resident there right through the Troubles for 5 years, and the kids still came, went home late at night.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of the fact that I can say that they were the heroes. Well, the bands to a certain extent, because people always talked about bands that flew in,
yeah,
played a gig and flew out again,
exactly,
and then they hyped it all up and said they played Belfast.
Yeah, yeah.
They forget about that there was maybe 60 bands in Belfast at that time, playing 4 nights a week, getting into their cars with their gear, not vans, some of them had vans, and going around all the clubs late at night during the Troubles as well. So yeah, it's great to have lived through that and made so many friends.
I'm thinking about what happened to Club Sound in Belfast, and then of course what happened to the Miami Show Band and stuff. I mean, did you guys think about that when you were going out to your gigs each night, that something might happen to you?
Well, it was only after it, and like I say, it was when I read about people saying that they flew into Belfast and wasn't it great, mainly the English press, and saying they played Belfast, nobody would go to them, and everybody was appreciative. And it was only when I sat down and thought about it that we were getting into cars with our gear, like I say, going and playing places, and who would take even, and it's frightening when you think back, who would take your number plate, or because. But we never thought of that.
Yeah. And
to be honest, nobody ever said to us. And it was only when it happened to Miami, and I was playing with a band called, not in the rock scene, Longstreet at the time, and we did the Deer Park in Antrim. And Ronnie Miller run the Deer Park in Antrim. And Ronnie Miller was Ray Miller's brother. And Ray was the drummer with Miami. And that night, because the boys had played Banbridge, we'd played the week before with them in the Deer Park, because we were the resident band, and we'd played the week before. And I'd still see Ray in Antrim, that's where I live, down Kells way, and I still see Ray, and I know all the boys, Barry and that there, and George and everybody out of Club Sound. But that whole mixture, and it was only when I got up the next day, I can remember it just as if it happened yesterday, and hearing it on the radio, and phoning Ronnie Miller and saying, "Is Ray okay?" And he says, "Albert, they were going down after Banbridge south because it was the weekend.
Yeah.
They hadn't another gig till the following weekend, so Ray just came home."
Exactly, yes. Yeah.
And it was that's when it hit me that that was very, very, but it didn't stop me playing. I knew the kids would still come out and hear the bands, and they still do.
Yes, yeah. It was like in those days, music united people, didn't it?
It still does.
Yeah.
It still does. Music, you see the concerts that go on for peace, and that one Minnoburn and that there. Fortunately, we had 30 years after that, and our band disintegrated after that. We came home to Wrecked Road and that there, and I went to Liverpool with Harry Clark from Highfield and Pierce McKenna, who ended up playing with Gary Moore.
Wow.
And I went to Liverpool, and we arrived in Liverpool, no gigs, no nothing. And the manager went in and said to this guy, in the Blue Angel Club that the Beatles, Frank, and this is all true.
Yeah, yeah.
The Blue Angel Club. And he says, told him, with no gigs or nothing, we're from Northern Ireland. There was a band playing downstairs and we played upstairs. And we took over the residency from that night. Wow. And that lad looked after us, and we played there for Liverpool for 3 months, the clubs. moved to London, played a couple of gigs in London, and then I came home again.
Brilliant. Did you ever play the Cavern?
No. But the Beatles are my favourite band of all time.
Really, yeah.
Of all, even though I'm a rocker, the Beatles, there's nobody, McCartney the other week at Glastonbury,
brilliant, wasn't it?
Absolutely, and you know what I mean, the backlog of work that he has himself and with the Beatles, you know. That's when I took up guitar, when I heard the Beatles. And standing on the corner on the Shankill and a kitchen house, and got myself an acoustic guitar and learnt Love Me Do, and then learned Roy Orbison and was playing rhythm guitar. And then from then, I was about 14 at the time.
Was music always in your family when you were growing up?
No, not a bit. Music was never in the family. And like I say, started off playing rhythm guitar and it wasn't Creative Mind, then it was Generation X. Then I joined the Blue Angels, which from Shankill was my first semi-pro band, and we did the Ulster Hall with Brendan Barr's support.
Oh wow!
And that was my first experience there, and then it went from there. Bass player left the band, I took up bass, and then Creative Mind got better and better, and then as I got the reputation, and Jim Armstrong headhunted me from Yellow Pages.
Right.
We were playing up in the Quarry Inn, and he left Bronco, and Jim. Somebody said to me, because we used to go down to the Pound, myself and Bobby and Seath, the guitar player, let's go down and see Spike, let's go down and see Bronco. So we were playing the Quarry Inn, and we were playing stuff like Living Next Door to Alice and stuff like that. And Bobby says, Big Jim's in tonight, Jim Armstrong. And I said, what's Jim doing here, coming to hear a band like us? No, but we're good players.
Yes,
don't get me wrong, we played it right. And had very popular Yellow Pages. And at the end of it, he came over and he says, I've left Bronco, and I want you to play bass and be the lead singer. And the boy says, go join that, that's what you love playing.
Yeah.
And then I was in a relationship with Jim as his bass player and singer for about 14 years.
Wow.
On and off from Light, and then various lineups in Light, till the Jim Armstrong band, me, him, and John Wilson.
Brilliant, yeah. Well, I have in my hand the original Light album, and I believe if anybody has one of these in their record collection at home, this is worth a few quid.
Yeah, mint condition, about 160, 70 quid.
Wow.
Right down to about 50 quid if it's in poor condition.
Yeah, and yours is signed by all the guys in the band as well.
Absolutely.
So that probably puts the price up even more, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I got Jim to sign it, and I got Scotty to sign it, and the rest of them.
So the great thing about Light as well, you've got this out now as well.
Yeah.
New music. Tell us about the new music then.
Well, I'm very excited. First and foremost, Robin, I'm very excited with the band that's playing with me. I've always played with great musicians, and the musicians in this band are no exception. You know what I mean? First one, I have to say, Ian Speedo Wilson. Everybody knows Speedo. The guy is an inspiration, and when we were writing these songs, I took the basics, like I did with Jim. Ian would come in. The ideas that Ian Wilson has is playing is phenomenal and inspires me. It really does inspire me. And then it's Brian Glenn on keyboards and flute, and Brian Warnick on drums. And we started off by a Pound Remembered gig in the Black Box 4 years ago, once a year, and we packed it every time. And now with Ronnie Greer, Ronnie's been a staple of it. He's brilliant, great friend and muso. And from the Pound days, like I say, he took over from Jim and Bronco.
Right, yes.
And so what we did was we decided on lockdown. I had a few songs in the locker, and the boys had a few songs. So we had about 15 songs, and we were going to put out an album, and then we decided to put out 3 EPs. But there's 5 songs on the EP, and we just went into a rehearsal room and just kicked them about, and this is the songs, and they're poignant. They're not just songs. The first one on it, which is a phrase that everybody used, and I heard it today, was again the day from some MPs today, is there light at the end of the tunnel?
Exactly, yes.
And that first track is from Light at the End of the Tunnel, dedicated to the NHS. And we're giving the Pound every CD we sell. We're giving it to the NHS no matter how many CDs we sell. And it's all about COVID.
Right, yeah.
And it's a tribute to the NHS. And then there's 2 real rockers on it that you would, when you listen to it, you'll hear Thin Lizzy influences there. There's one on a political song that I wrote, which is called Tottenham.
It's not about Spurs then.
No, it's about the Tottenham Riots. And the guy said to me, and it's funny that you say that to me, because the guy said to me when he was interviewing me before, he says, "What'd you call it Tottenham for? Was there not enough riots in Belfast that you couldn't call it Belfast?" But it's the way it came, and the riff on it is when I played with Taste with Sam Davison, and Lynn, it's a riff that Sam wrote, and bless him, he said to me, use it, you wrote the song, use it. So it's about the Tottenham Riots, and then the last track on it is, and I think you're going to ask me to play guitar today. And
well, you've got it with you. You may as well.
Put it on the pressure. The last track on it, Ian's idol at the minute. He's had a lot of idols like Michael Schenker and that. Yeah. But his idol at the minute is Django Reinhardt.
Right, yes.
The old 20s gypsy guitarist. And he, I was sitting writing this song, and the beauty of this EP is it's not all rock. The last song on it is a love song to the moon and back. And I said to him, you know, I picture myself just like when and he's a great friend, a fan of Gary as well, when they wrote Parisian Walkways. I says, this song, I envisage a Parisian feel to it when we were rehearsing. I says, so can you do a bit of Django on that there? And he said, yeah. And when you listen to that, like I say, I'd play the basic of it when we were writing it, but when you listen to a solo in it, and there's only him on guitars, acoustic guitars, and me on bass, and a shuffle drum.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think, you know what I mean, I may be blowing my own trumpet here, I just think everybody that's heard it said, that's so good, and now we'll play it live, we'll play it electrically live. I just like it, but we just decided this is what we were going to do. We're going to do our own music, because at my time of life, I can copy people till I'm blue in the face. If somebody says to me, go and learn Thin Lizzy, go and learn Rory Gallagher, go and learn this here as a bass player, I can do that. Anybody can do that when you come to that standard. And all musicians that will tell you that. And a whole lot of them are doing it. Like I say, our set doesn't only consist of this. The original stuff, it consists of covers as well. So when you learn a cover, you're losing somebody else's music. But we decided the importance of getting in and writing their own stuff again, that's where it's at. And then the hardest part is when we started playing them to an audience, because if the audience don't like your original stuff, you're soon gonna know it from them and say, like, you know what I mean, I'm sorry, you know, and hide away from it, you know.
But you seem to be busy enough with all the gigs coming in at the minute.
We're as busy, Robin, as we want to be. I want to do 1 gig, 2 gigs a month. Yeah. What I've also started to do is, not as a promoter, I've started to, like I say, the Pound Remembered gig. Ronnie Greer's playing it with us on the 30th of September in the Black Box. And the Grand Camaros, great friends of mine, played the Pound with Richmond Hill, and that there Gordon Thompson, the keyboard player. The money will be divided equally amongst everybody. And we also did Antrim, which was the same thing with Taste. Mm-hmm. And coming out of and Willie Byrne, out of lockdown, I put that show on. So and we're trying to do one in Ballymena to help the BT Blues Club in Ballymena, because it's a great wee club, and they pull in it's stuffed with about 60 people in it. Yeah, yeah. So we're going to do the town hall in Ballymena and do a festival there. Again, run it, get the bands, everybody gets a share of the money to help them with promoting their other gigs, and bands doing it for bands, you know. And on top of that, more than thankful to people like Shamie O'Neill doing the festivals. Shamie, brilliant, and looked after me for a long time, playing with Taste. And we do the Deer's Head, we do the American Bar, and we do the Longfellow. Yeah, yeah. All of the stable ones that are out there. And yeah, I'm doing, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm no spring chicken now, like, but and I'm thankful that I'm able to do it, put a bass guitar around my neck and play, and that the people that went to the Pound, like I referred to them earlier on there, all through the Troubles, they're all in my age group now, and they all come out to hear the band. Yeah, yeah. And it's lovely. It really is lovely, you know, that I can still do that.
Brilliant. Well, It's out now. You've got the Pound Remembered coming up in September. I know there's a load of other gigs in between as well.
Yep.
If they keep an eye on your social media, I'm sure all the dates will be on there.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
It's been great seeing you, Albert. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Brilliant.
So let's have some live music, and from the new Light EP, here's Albert performing a stripped back version of To the Moon and Back.
I said I love you, I'm gonna need you to the end of time. And when I leave you, can't wait to see you, you're on my mind. To the moon and back, I love you. To the moon, to the moon, to the moon and back, I'm thinking of you. Yes, I love you to the moon and back. I coulda, woulda, shoulda, it still fills my head. Can't take it back, you can't take it back, 'cause it's been said. To the moon and back, I love you. To the moon, to the moon, to the moon and back, I'm thinking of you. Yes, I love you to the moon and back. I never meant to break your heart. If I could, I'd take you back. I'd go back to the very start. I'd never again cause you so much pain. I love you to the moon and back, round and round again. And I coulda, woulda, shoulda, it still fills my head. You can't take it back, you can't take it back, 'cause it's been said. To the moon and back, I love you. To the moon, to the moon, to the moon and back, I'm thinking of you. Yes, I love you to the moon and back. I coulda, woulda, shoulda, it still fills my head. You can't take it back, you can't take it back, 'cause it's been said. To the moon and back, I love you. To the moon, to the moon, to the moon and back, I'm thinking of you. Yes, I love you to the moon and back. To the moon and back, moon and back.
Right, time now to meet a travel writer and broadcaster Lisa Nand. We're talking about the top 40 experiences in the UK that apparently you have to experience before the age of 40. And let's find out which Northern Ireland experience has made the list as well. Here's what happens when I caught up with Lisa earlier on this week. So, Lisa, we're talking about the list of the top 40 UK experiences that you really should complete before the age of 40. So what has made the list then?
Well, it's quite a surprising list, actually, and I was one of the people who helped compile it. It was really enjoyable doing our research and seeing what the top 40 experiences in the UK are. And coming out at number one is a night stargazing at Northumberland's International Dark Sky Park, claiming the top spot, which sounds absolutely wonderful. You know, we talk about stargazing in other countries. Tenerife is a very big one for it, but we don't really think that actually we have these spaces here to do ourselves. Also on there was climbing the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland, watching the headline act at Glastonbury Festival, which I've done a couple of times. I'd love to do again if I could figure out how you buy the tickets, because it's quite complicated. And so many other things, you know, that are just either active or about walking or hiking or just celebrating our beautiful country.
Well, I'm looking down at the list of the top 30 at the moment, and I think the only two on the list that I've actually done is obviously the Giant's Causeway here in Northern Ireland, and I've actually done the Big Pit in Wales.
Ah, have you? Now, that was something I hadn't heard of, and I liked the idea of that. And also, while doing the tour, you know, while doing the research, I found some wonderful things. You know, the black cab tours of Belfast, gin tours. You know, there were so many things that actually not everything made it on the list. But I think the message is about just getting out there and doing it and having experiences. And the beauty of all 40 places on the list is they actually can be done for free, depending where you live. You know, you can hop on a bus. Obviously, if you don't live in Northern Ireland, you want to get the, you know, you might have to pay flights and accommodation, but they can all be done under £1,000. And this is since the pandemic. You know, we want to get out and experience things, but we've now also got the cost of living crisis. And it was kind of amalgamating both those things, you know, doing fantastic experiences that might be on our doorstep and doing them, you know, affordably.
Now, it's interesting as well, because in this survey, it says that over half of people say they've missed out on trying these experiences due to financial issues. But as you said there, lots of these places are actually free, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. It's about doing things affordably. And yes, it's wonderful to be able to go for 2 weeks in Spain or France and Italy if you can. But actually, you know, there are so many things on our doorstep. And, you know, we kept it deliberately under this £1,000 because of the NatWest product. And there are so many things here. You don't even have to do them in the peak period in the summer. You can actually do these things all year round.
Now, 3 in 10 people would rather leave the UK than have a staycation at home. That's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it depends what you feel about relaxing. And I do get it, you know, relaxing, certainly, if you think about that as lying on a beach, you know, we can't necessarily do it over here as often as we'd like. But, you know, it can also be incredibly relaxing to go for a walk or a hike. And it's not all just about relaxing, particularly maybe, you know, if you are under 40. One of the things on the list was sandboarding in Wales. Apparently we've got the second largest sand dune in Europe. In Wales, I had no idea until I did my research. The second largest in Europe. It's called the Big Dipper. So sandboarding off there is one of our more active things, certainly on the list.
Now, number 2 on the list is something that I've wanted to do for some time now. It's the road trip around Scotland's north coast, which is kind of seen as the Route 66 of Scotland now, isn't it?
Oh, it sounds amazing. And this was actually one of the things I personally recommended, and something I actually haven't done. I mean, sometimes I get a bit funny about recommending things that I haven't done, but I did a lot of research and it sounds fantastic. The route was almost created just as a tourist attraction about 10, 15 years ago. The roads have always been there. In fact, some of them are very, very old indeed. But they thought, hang on, you know, if we link this all together and call it something, it goes through incredible valleys, mountains, beautiful beaches that rival the Caribbean, you know, stopping off at distilleries, whiskey distilleries, beautiful bars and restaurants and cafes, historic sites. It just sounds absolutely stunning. And obviously you've got to, if you can afford the petrol, you know, and go and do it. It's not too much of an expensive holiday.
And people have done that trip have told me as well that it's best to take about 10 days to 2 weeks to complete the trip to fully experience everything there is to see.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, in the UK, we have the most beautiful beaches in the world, and we have so many beautiful things. You know, I love traveling, but I choose to live here. And I think often we forget that it's actually a place of travel over here. People come from the world over, you know, to see our sites and our beaches and our historic sites and our mountains and greenery and everything. And we're so lucky to, you know, to live here. The chance, we just need to take advantage of that and set off and explore.
I've just discovered another one that I've actually done. Number 21, visit Devon and Dorset's stunning Jurassic Coast and check out the prehistoric fossils. I mean, that is really something special. And everybody should visit that, shouldn't they?
It's beautiful. I've actually spent quite a lot of time there at Lyme Regis, which is a beautiful little town nestled. It's a travel writing cliche, but it's nestled on the coast, and you've got the incredible white cliffs arising there, and you can find fossils. You can actually still find fossils there. I took my kids there not so long ago, and it's just that proper British seaside experience. It's just really lovely. On the list as well is another one in Kent, like going to Margate, which is now a hotbed of arts activity. You know, you've got the Turner Gallery there, and also the British seaside experience as well. You know, the buckets of spades and the ice cream and the fish and chips and everything like that. You know, it is really special, and we should be justifiably proud of all this stuff.
And with Downton Abbey back in the cinemas recently, Downton Abbey fans can now go to the real Downton Abbey, can't they? You
can, in Hampshire, absolutely. And we have so many stately homes. I love visiting a stately home and going around the tea room and the garden and everything like that. Again, not too costly an endeavour, depending where you live. So what's on your list next? What are you going to visit later on this year then? In fact, one of the things that are on the list that I really fancy doing, which I haven't done at all, is punting on the River Cam in Cambridge. It just sounds so quintessentially British, you know, with the strawberries and possibly some champagne. I'm hoping for some champagne and punting and seeing all the historic sites and the university going under the Bridge of Sighs. You know, that sounds like a really, really lovely thing to do. So that would be top on my list. And also the stargazing, which we were talking about before, you know, having not known that was a possibility, apart from just going out and looking at the stars in a remote area, but actually going somewhere specific, which sounds amazing. You know, that sounds really good too. Sounds amazing. Well, if people want to check out the full list and get any more information, where can they go to for that? So for the 40 under 40 list, go on NatWest's social media, so Twitter and Facebook and everything like that. Well, Lisa, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for having me. Right, to finish off the show this week, we're talking about Belfast's whisky heritage, because the Belfast Whisky Festival is coming soon. To tell us all about it, the festival director, Paul Kane, joins us in the studio. Paul, how are you?
I'm very good. Robin, thanks for inviting me to the studio.
Thank you for coming in, and I hope we're going to get the weather for the festival that you're expecting today.
Listen, it's warm today, isn't it? And we have been blessed with some good weather in Belfast, and yes, praying that, yes, the end of July we get some good weather. And why not? Shorts and t-shirt, that's what it should be. And it's a festival,
yes.
So dress appropriately.
Exactly. Now, I need to learn about whiskey, because I'm not a whiskey drinker. You're going to go, oh, but I'm a gin drinker, okay? And I know very little about whiskey, apart from the great collection that Willie Jack has next door in the Duke of York. That's all I know about.
And he does have a fabulous collection.
Does,
he's a true champion, and let's put Willie Jack in his place here. Willie Jack is a champion of whiskey here and the heritage of whiskey from Belfast. So, you know, it's fascinating that you even cite him straight away, because it is, if you think about it, when people come here for tourists, yeah. People come here even as locals, if they want to understand whiskey, they're going to come to the friend at hand to the shop, they're going to come to the Duke of York, they're going to look at all that memorabilia, yeah. They're going to look at those empty bottles and a sheer look into history of what Belfast was about. So I'm glad you cited that. But yeah, you don't need to be an expert in whiskey to enjoy whiskey. You don't even need to like whiskey to start to enjoy whiskey. So you're a gin drinker, which is perfectly fine. There's a lot of relationships there.
Really?
You know, well, gin comes from grain, whiskey comes from grain. Yeah. You know, the biggest difference is that whiskey's matured for those 3-year periods before we have whiskey.
Yeah.
So they're the big differences, you know, and we've got great distillers round about who have made good gin.
Yes.
Who are also now making good whiskey.
Exactly,
so we've got Copeland Distillery, we've got the likes of Ecklandville Distillery and Redeman Distillery, who people might know as Shortcross, and yet they're now producing good whiskies. So, you know, you're a gin drinker, but I'm sure I can make you a whiskey drinker.
Okay,
you know, I could, you know, we can change your taste.
Brilliant. Okay, we must do that, because the Whisky Festival is coming up, and I mean, this is massive. You've got something like 100 events happening, haven't you?
At the moment, there's 111 events.
Wow.
And across various parts of the city, lots of different venues. So we've got multiple use. We're in the Duke of York, yes, that's our home. That's our home, really. But we're also in the Deer's Head, their upstairs lounge, which is the Angel and Two Bibles. We're over in White's Tavern. We're in parts of the Merchant. We're doing a little bit in part of the National. We've got venues outside of the city, really, because we're going out to Ben Madigan up in North Belfast. And then we've got all the distilleries. So we've got these day tours. So you physically are in Belfast, but we take you out on a bus and we take you to the distilleries that are on our doorstep. So that's really nice. You know, as far down as Cologne, which is down past Warren Point, or indeed out towards Kirkcudbright, to Ecklandville, or Donaghadee, Copeland, and Hinge out at Ballyhinge and so on. Do you know what I mean? So it's good to get out and about and explore what we have now on our doorstep, which are physical distilleries making whiskey. You know, we are the epicentre really of whiskey distilling now in Ireland. It's here in the north. Lots of people making whiskey and very good product, which we're exporting around the world. So the idea of this festival is to bring people back into that, thinking, well, why have a festival for whiskey here in Belfast? Well, Belfast was, you know, with this history, was the largest producer of whiskey in the world. And certainly at one point, one distillery alone, so the Dunville's distillery, so just out, you know, just on the kind of inter part of West Belfast, you know, near the Royal, we had the biggest whiskey distillery in the world, producing more whiskey than anywhere, including the Scots. You know, the Scots weren't even a thought at that point, really, in terms of the actual production amount. And we lost all that.
Yeah.
So we lost all, you know, we lost Avonneal distillery, we lost the Conswatters, we lost the, you know, production up in Derry, up in Watts. We lost all these distilleries in Northern Ireland, and big loss would have been Cumber, and a big loss would have been Dunville's in the city. These are big losses, and we've never recovered from it. We've never had, you know, a distillery in the city, and maybe pray we might have a couple coming up soon. Maybe one at Crumlin Jail, potentially. Fingers crossed, and one down in the docks, down in the old pump house. So if these come to fruition, you know, the first time that we be producing whiskey for the, you know, over 70 years in the city, so that'd be really cool. But my idea was to bring people, to genuinely bring people back to thinking whiskey and Belfast. It should have that heritage, and it should have that history proclaimed and talked about and explored and celebrated, and that's what the festival's about. So yes, we've got 111 events, but they're not all just whiskey drinking events. They're experience events to bring people into understanding whiskey, to meet the brands, to meet the people who are bringing that back to life, you know, and creating, by the way, lots of jobs in the city, you know, and feeding bars and the nightlife and, you know, retail, doing all of that. There's a lot of things that are going on, but yeah.
Do you know, it sounds really, really good. Now, as well as the whiskey tasting events and stuff, you're pairing things with cooking events as well, aren't you?
Yeah, we could easily start with, we usually start with Chocolate Manor, who we've paired up with. Jerry from Chocolate Manor, we were with them last year. She managed to produce some lovely chocolates, which we gave her the whiskey for. Mm-hmm. This year's slightly different. We're actually getting the participants this time to make the chocolate. So it's an experience where you come and make the whiskey chocolates, which is pretty cool. And we're doing that in partnership with Chocolate Manor and also Belfast Cookery School.
Right. Okay.
At the same time, we're working with Belfast Cookery School to do 2-course meals where you use whiskey in the cooking process. And I think that'll be really interesting for people who maybe aren't the whiskey drinker, or maybe aren't like sure about how to use whiskey in food production and in particularly making a nice meal for yourself. So they're great opportunities to do something hands-on. There's also food pairings. Yeah. So we're working in collaboration with O Donuts. So they've now made 6 donuts for us for the festival, and there's a specific donut which is going to be on sale as a constant throughout the week, so people can go and try a whiskey donut from O Donuts. Or we've got Tribal Burger, where we've got 3 nights where we take over Tribal Burger. Different brands are coming in, so Teeling, Jameson, Foxy's Bow. And we also have a burger of the week, a whiskey burger, which you can go and get, so that'll be on sale also. So I think it's very important to collaborate with local people, local businesses, and again, witness the fact that whiskey can work with lots of different things. It's not just to be, you know, sampled neat or drunk neat. The cocktail making classes that we have, again, hands-on experiences, doing something physical. And again, they are trying to attempt to say to people, listen, you go out and order cocktails. So no doubt you've had a cocktail or 2 in your time. And people can then say, right, well, does it always have to be a gin cocktail? Does it always have to be a vodka, you know, related cocktail? What are the whiskey cocktails and how do they taste? And you know, and actually getting the chance to make them, I think, is pretty cool.
Exactly, right, okay. So as well as all that, there's speed dating going on too. Tell me about that.
There is, you know, we're in partnership with Rate My Date NI, who are a fairly new company in Northern Ireland, but you know what, the 2 people behind it, Jared and his partner, met at speed dating, and they've gone on and created this speed dating network within Belfast, and indeed Northern Ireland. People come from all over now just to come to these sessions. So we have 3 sessions. There's a male-only session, there's a female-only session, and then there's both a mixed session. And really the idea there is to use whiskey as the conduit, the conversation starter that people can have at those sessions. But sure, why not? Do you know, the people are meeting already. We want people to taste whiskey, so there's actually in partnership with the Dubliner whiskey brand from the south, and they're coming up and giving cocktails for those sessions. It will be good fun. You know, if you're single and you want to come and have a bit of crack, I think those sessions are good.
So give us one more highlight then. What else should we come to see?
It's put me on the spot, and you know, there's not necessarily one event I think is standout.
Yeah.
I think what we have is events that really should suit everyone's taste and affordability. So, you know, this festival is priced at not the whiskey consumer directly. It's priced to involve as many people as, you know, as we can have come and exploring whiskey. So there's events at £5 a ticket. There's some events, yes, at maybe £50 a ticket. Yeah. But those events, each one of those events is catered to a different demographic. There's club nights, which I think is cool. Yeah. So taking over venues, allowing people to come and enjoy themselves, cocktail sessions, there's party environments. It's a festival. Let's try and imagine it's a festival in the city, and we have live music. You know, we're taking over Common Market as one of their venues for the whole day, and you're letting people come in and experience it. So there's not one event, and I couldn't put my hat on that one and say it is. At the end of the week, we have an exposition. Right. That exposition is allowing the brands who are involved in the festival to showcase their whiskies for people to come and get involved. There's a trade side of that, so everyone who's involved in selling whiskey in the bars or in off licenses, they're allowed to come to that, learn a little bit more about what they're selling. Yeah. You know, so yeah, no. Apologies that I can't answer it directly, but I think that we've got that many events, it would be very difficult for me to pick one. Although there is one I want to go to, which is 100% I need to be there. Yeah. And we are tasting some great whiskies it's called the Dream Cask selection, and it is like a very rare opportunity to try 5 very rare whiskies. And those who know what those whiskies are will understand that we do it every year. We look at it and it keeps building on year. So it is something that yeah, for me that's special, and it'll be a special taste.
I'm finding these days as well, more and more people are starting to collect whiskey now. Is this something you could actually end up making a lot of money from?
Do you know, I'm not your financial advisor, but what I am, you know, I come from a period where I only understood the commodity side and the value of whiskey post retail. And that comes from the passing of my grandfather. Found a lovely bottle of whiskey in his drawer, thought nothing of it, put it into my own drawer. A couple of years later, brought it back out and did a wee bit of research. And when I researched that bottle, something that would have cost about £20 in the shop was then, and I was offered by the great grandson of the person who produced the bottle, about £350. So yes, there is value there. And it's something, if you get in collecting into whiskey, you know, be confident that even if you're investing into whiskey, it's something you can potentially drink if it doesn't work out well. So you can't really drink your gold chains, you know, or your precious art, but you can drink a good bottle of whiskey. Yeah. So yeah, is it an investment? Of course it can be, but be safe.
Okay. Belfast Whiskey Week runs from the 22nd until the 30th of July. If people want to check out the full programme, where can they go to for that? So
our tickets are on sale at belfastwhiskeyweek.com, and you can find information via Instagram or indeed Facebook.
Brilliant. Paul, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much for coming in.
No, thank you for the invite.
So there we go. So I know what I'm doing between the 22nd and 30th of July. You should do the same, actually. That's all we have time for on the show this week. Thank you to all my guests, and I'll see you back here same time next week. Bye-bye.